The Yellow Brick Road. This video does not reflect the actual views of real people. These are actors playing a role to entertain audiences. No persons or animals were harmed in the making of this video. Gosh, I love YouTube and I love Google.
So obviously the use of chemical weapons in any instance is horrific. It's a war crime, it's heinous, and it ought to be strongly condemned by everybody. I think that the evidence is quite overwhelming that the perpetrators of this chemical weapons attack, as well as previous ones, is the Assad government.
White helmets are nothing but a medical front public relations outfit for Al-Qaeda. Again and again, they're celebrating Al-Qaeda victories. They blame everything on Assad. Assad had chemical weapons for 11 years in a row, never used them on anybody. Agreed to dismantle them. Doesn't gain anything by using them. Doesn't gain anything by just randomly killing civilians.
We've heard a distinct split in the storylines of the Syrian conflict. We've heard a uniform mainstream perspective, except Tucker Carlson, and we've heard varying alternative media perspectives. What we haven't heard was a psychological examination of the implications this split creates. First, let's explain the mainstream narrative. Bashar al-Assad used chemical weapons against his own people in order to preserve dominance over a disgruntled populace several times in the past 5 years. Most notably, 2013, under President Obama.
Good afternoon, everybody. 10 days ago, the world watched in horror as men, women, and children were massacred in Syria in the worst chemical weapons attack of the 21st century. Yesterday, the United States presented a powerful case that the Syrian government was responsible for this attack on its own people.
And more recently in 2017 and 2018 under President Trump.
And we're making a decision as to what we do with respect to the horrible attack that was made near Damascus, and it will be met, and it will be met forcefully.
Let's examine some of the alternative media's narrative. Bashar al-Assad never used chemical weapons on his own people. Fact number 1, he surrendered the weapons to Russia years ago.
As Syria accepts a proposal to give up its chemical weapons and avoid a military strike. The proposal started as an off-the-cuff remark by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, but it was the Russians who pushed it forward.
Fact number 2, the anti-Assad Syrian moderate rebels were the only ones to actually use them.
During our investigation for crimes against humanity and war crimes, we collect some witness testimony that made to appear that some chemical weapons were used, in particular nervine gas. And what appeared on to our investigation that was used by the opponents, by the rebels, and we have no indication at all that the government, the authority of the Syrian government, have used chemical weapons.
Fact number 3, Assad has no reason to use them. Assad clearly wouldn't want to stir things up with Western powers. Nothing is more evident than the most recent attack, when America was ready to pull out of the conflict.
I think the least likely would be Assad. This whole idea, Assad, and it's over and over again, I probably heard it 10 times today. Assad is gassing his own people, and they've said that every time it happened, Assad, and then a month or two later, they proved that was absolutely wrong. So I cannot see any reason why Assad would do this. There's no reason for Russia to have done this.
The only thing that would pull America back into the conflict would be another chemical attack. Only an idiot would do that and sabotage a war he was already winning. And this screams false flag.
Now that we have a narrow understanding of the narratives, let's talk about some recent news, which makes this truly a psychologically interesting scenario.
Sharp said he was within 1 city block from the alleged site of the attack and claimed he spoke to doctors about the reported chemical strike.
and they said that there was nothing out of the ordinary, and while they were going about their rounds, suddenly, out of nowhere, they said a bunch of strangers burst into the room screaming that there was a chemical attack. And they started hosing, they brought in allegedly victims, and they started hosing them down with water. And so the doctors, they freaked out, and they grabbed hoses, and they started helping and stuff. And the strangers who brought in the victims were videotaping everything. This is all gathered from translations, so I may have missed something. I'm not trying to say this is exactly what happened, but this is what I gathered from what the doctor told me, speaking Arabic through my translator. And they said that they brought in cameras and they were filming everything, and as soon as they had, washed everybody off and stuff, they packed up and they left. And that was the end of it. And the doctors said when the people were there, they didn't see any indication that there was a chemical attack. They said that people's eyes, when you get burned by chemicals, your eyes swell up, they're puffy, you can't breathe, you're coughing. They said the people that came in looked totally normal.
ب 8 نيسان 2018 كان يوم الأحد، تعرض أحد الأبنية للقصف في المناطق العلوية، اجانا جرحى، والمناطق السفلية صار في عنا حريق، فاجانا حالات اختناق من القبو، فصرنا نعالج هاي الحالات. فاجا أحد الأشخاص معه كاميرا عم يقول إنه كيماوي، فأصاب العالم إنه صار في نوبة هلع هيك، وصاروا يكتوا على بعضهم مي وشي بخ بالإرزاز وشي، والأطباء قالوا إنه ما في كيماوي ولا في أي شيء.
اسمي خليل الجيش، طالب طب، أعمل مقيم في قسم الإسعاف في مشفى دوما. بتاريخ 8/4/2018 استقبل قسم الإسعاف عدد من الإصابات إثر تعرض أحد الأبنية السكنية للقصف، ما أدى إلى تهدم الطوابق العلوية وتعرض الطوابق السفلية للحريق. تم إجلاء المصابين إلى قسم الإسعاف، كان منهم الجرحى تم التعامل معهم، وكان هناك بعض حالات الاختناق بسبب الدخان والغبار. تم التعامل مع هذه الحالات بشكل عرضي، لكن أثناء إسعاف هذه الإصابات جاء أحد الأشخاص وصرخ في قسم الإسعاف أن هناك ضربة بالسلاح الكيماوي، مما دفع الناس المتواجدين في قسم الإسعاف إلى التعامل مع هذه الحالات على أنها ضربة بالسلاح الكيماوي، مما دفعهم إلى غسل الأطفال. علما أن في هذا اليوم لم يستقبل المشفى أي حالة تنطبق مع الإصابة بالسلاح الكيماوي.
Now, I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories on a lot of issues, but this one seems different. It agitates my mind. For some reason, I believe this could be a huge breaking point in how societies view their governments. And with an already controversial figure as the quote-unquote leader of the free world, this could possibly be a chain reaction. Psychologically, here's what can play out. A split in the social consciousness, just like a split in the ego. And these can allow for a large-scale feedback, where there's a concrete divide between opposing narratives. This allows the populace of America, as well as other nations, to see who they are and who they're not. It's like being able to discern the body and the shadow, the heart and the brain, the ego and the self. When we look into a mirror, we are able to discern the body versus the reflection through conditioning and experience. But let's say you never knew a reflection was an image created by photons and whatever other scientific shit, and you thought the image was just over there, or a clever copycat. Either way, what happens when you go up and the reflection goes down? You have an epiphany of self-realization.